Hello, I'm Denise Eaton, and this is Sweet Spot. I'm perfectly fine here. In fact, I'm quite used to it now. And since I had the brainwave about the flask, what more could I want? Shouldn't be too many more weeks now, should it? They're all lovely though, so I mustn't complain. That Ray, he's a proper one. I think he might have spent some time, inside. He's got all these amazing tattoos all over his hands and arms, like he did them himself. And one of them spells a very rude word. Wonder who he was thinking about when he wrote that. Not me, I hope. I don't really feel frightened. It's just easier to keep out of the way. They don't want some old biddy like me rushing around asking daft questions, making the wrong drinks. I'd never remember who has coffee with 2 or tea with 1. I put a packet of those cheap biscuits out every morning though. You know the ones. Multi-pack or something. I decide whether it looks like a bourbon or a custard cream sort of day. There's malted milk and a nice style of thing too, but I'm hanging on to those. And I leave them on the front step. I reckon that way they'll know I'm in, but they don't need to bother me for anything. I've no idea what they do about going though. Perhaps they're completely plumbed in, little hoses attached to their thingies. Wouldn't be much fun if you suddenly needed to go when you're up there carrying a load of tiles. I think the scaffolding was the worst bit. It's like having your whole house covered in some sort of creeper, only it's made of metal and it goes up in a flash. Before, I could go into any room, do whatever I wanted, and not be worried. I've got a lovely view of Morrison's out front and the funeral director's car park out the back. Plenty of comings and goings. But the next minute, all I could see was poles and planks and ladders and men wearing yellow jackets and builders' hats. I've no idea how many of them there are, to be honest. And they can see me. So that's why I'm sitting here on the stairs. They're mostly on the roof now, but I'm never sure when they're going to come down to get a hammer or such like, so it's easier to stay here. I thought about going out, but I've done a big shop, so I don't need anything. And if I went to church, Father O'Brien might think there was something wrong, and I wouldn't want to cause a stir. The library's another option, but the last time I went, they were all over me saying, didn't I want to hook up with the internet? Well, what would be the point? I've got plenty of channels, and there's only rubbish on. That's been a bit of a problem, though. I generally watch the news with my lunch, and I've not liked to do that. Occasionally, they all go out to the chip shop. At least, I think that's where they go. So one day, I did try sneaking into the living room for 5 minutes. I was watching the 1 o'clock with my corned beef sandwich when it happened. Evidently, one of them had been leaning against the gatepost, so I'd not seen him. But he moved ever so slightly and looked round. I bobbed down in the chair, but I wasn't sure I got away with it, so I've not tried it again. I don't need television anyway. Mother said it was a sign of a lazy mind if you watch too much, and I think she was right. I've got my radio though, so I can keep abreast. Not that there's much that makes sense these days. It's all just mad, isn't it? And there's my books, of course. This was Dad's favourite. He first read it to me when I was about 6, and I couldn't tell you how many times I've read it since. Little House on the Prairie. He used to say that this was our little house. There's not such a good view of the prairie now they've put up Morrison, so to speak, but it still feels just the same to me. They'd like to think that I'm looking after the place. PVC replacement windows last spring and a new roof this year. Well, what else would I spend the money on? I've never been abroad. No point, Mother used to say, when you've got everything you need here. So I begin getting up extra early of a morning to make sure I've done all my ablutions before they arrive. I don't like to put the heating on, so it can sometimes feel a bit parky. I make myself a sandwich and fill the flask, and today I put a couple of those malted milk biscuits in for a bit of a treat. I'm always in position well before 8, and apart from 2 trips to the lavatory, well, sometimes 3, I can usually last till they leave of an evening. It's been fun, really. It'll be strange when they go, though. I've got quite used to the company.